One, and this would apply to this first auction here, maybe you have full opening values and the hand actually belongs to your side. And just because the opponents open first doesn't mean they have the balance of power. Sometimes you have the balance of power. And so, here, what if this one club opening is just a boring old minimum 13 count opening hand kind of thing. And this comes around to you and you have an opening hand that is either a minimum opening hand or maybe even just a shade better than minimum. Or even if it's minimum, like we said, your partner may have some values over there and maybe just didn't have a call over one club. Well, if you have the balance of power, you definitely don't want to just be selling out to one club, right? You want to get in there. So this might be your hand. They may have opened, but this might be your hand. And so, whether that's a double or, who knows, an overcall, or something we're going to come back to here in a bit. The balancing no trump. Sometimes people forget about that one. Mm-hmm. But the balancing no trump is not the same as an opening no trump or a direct suit no trump. So, we'll try and ultimately pick whichever call is the best description of our hand, but this may be your hand. And so you don't want the opponents to talk you out of that. Another reason to balance, and that would apply perhaps more to this situation over here, you want to compete for a part score. And there are a number of good things that can happen when you compete for a part score, and those good things, more often than not, outweigh the bad. So let's say we have this auction here, and partner, now this is what a good partner would do. A good partner would bid 2 spades when you balance with a double. So so hopefully partner has 4 spades to go along with your 4 spades. You probably have 4 spades a lot of times when you balance with a double of the opponent's major, right? You're not absolutely compelled to have 4, but you often will. Well, sometimes we see a situation where, maybe they were going to make 2 hearts, and we can also make 2 spades. When the deck is split like this, often both sides have making contracts. Until we get to a certain level where the contracts don't make anymore. And then we get into this battle of, who's making what, and you're trying to get to, the idea here is, maybe you can actually make 2 spades. And you're thinking, maybe we have a 110. Maybe there's a plus score for us. But if the opponents let you play 2 spades, and it goes down 1 vulnerable or even 2 non-vulnerable, isn't that better than letting them play 2 hearts anytime 2 hearts is making? Again, the assumption is that 2 hearts is making most of the time. Now, of course, if 2 hearts was not making, then we definitely want 2 spades to make, right? You get into this, and this becomes, and this is where all the difficulties of judgment and looking at the vulnerability and all the circumstances of these competitive auctions, that's where the hard decisions come in. When you have to try and determine, and especially the auctions where, say, somebody's preempt or somebody's jumping, or where we get to higher levels, these decisions are a little easier. They're going to stop at the 2 level. We'll get in there and see what happens, and then we're probably good for 1 more round of bidding, and then we're done. Some of the other auctions where you have to make decisions at higher levels, like the 3 level or above, 4 level, 5 level, it gets to be really hard to tell who's making what at that point, right? And what you're trying not to do is, you only want a minus score playing the hand if you knew for sure that the opponents had a plus score, that they were making theirs, right? If they weren't making their contract, you don't want to outbid them and turn your plus into a minus. On the other hand, if it's a good sacrifice, you do want to, in a lot of cases, even if they double you. So when we talk about reasons to balance, there are a few different reasons in a situation like this. Number one, two spades is actually making. That's the best case scenario, right? Number two, two spades isn't making, but two hearts was. And you're not probably going to get doubled at the two level. That's going to be very uncommon. Of course, I say that, and I played one heart doubled the other day and went down a whole bunch. That was a weird game, though. But yeah. Normally, if you get to play two spades here, and it doesn't make, you're usually out for down one. On a really bad day, down two. And if you're down two and you're not vulnerable, that's not even bad, right? That's still only 100, right? At 50 a trick. And if the hand is playing that badly for you in spades, remember that the symmetry exists, and that means that that the finesses that aren't working for you are working for them, right? So that meant that two hearts was actually probably playing very well. All the more reason for you to balance. And then, of course, we have another possible outcome, and that's that you push the opponents up one level, right? Mm-hmm. So you balance two spades, and they reluctantly go on to three hearts. They wanted to stop at two. They didn't make a game try. They may feel like it's their hand, but they didn't want to be any higher than the two level if they didn't have to. But now they feel like they have to. Well, if they had 9 tricks in hearts all the time, did you hurt yourselves by balancing? No. If they have a 140 coming, it's the same 140. It's the same score, whether they play two hearts making three or three hearts making three. So that score didn't change. On the other hand, if it's one of the deals where two hearts was making but three hearts was not, now your balance has succeeded in a different way, right? You turn the opponent's plus score that they had coming into a minus if they only had 8 tricks. So lots of good things can happen, and that's why we do this. As silly as it may seem at times, and as aggressive as the action may seem at times,
so then after the three hearts,
at this point you're done. And another common mistake that people make here is that maybe they do something like they compete, or even if the doubler passes and it comes back around, this person bids again. But that's almost always wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Any hands that your side would hold as the balancing side, any hands that you would hold that should be playing at the 3 level would have gotten into this auction sooner, right? So you're just trying to give the opponents a little nudge, right? You're just, and once you've balanced, you've done your job. So over here, don't hang your partner. You're like, oh look, they picked spades. I like spades. That was the suit I wanted partner to pick. Don't punish your partner for remember they were forced to bid. You doubled. You balanced with a double. They had to bid something. Don't punish your partner at that point. One double's enough. you did. They took the push to the 3 level. You did your job, and now you're done. So, don't overdo it. So as we're talking about, what you need to balance, and we've covered some of this already. And I have 4 items on my list of what do you need to balance. So we talked a little bit about high card points. Well, we didn't want to pin that. We kind of said, vulnerability. Vulnerability is a big consideration here. We don't want to pin you to a specific high card point total. But if you want to put a point count on it, I would look at it as, what would you view as a minimum overcall at the 1 level? Probably about 8 points. Maybe really good, maybe a really good 7 if you're at favorable vulnerability. Like if the opponent's opened a club and your entire hand was something like, well, we'll give you the whole hand. Something like that. You have 7 high card points. They are in your 5-card spade suit, and we gave you the 10 and 9 for good measure, because we like those intermediates. Would you overcall a spade with that hand?
Not vulnerable?
Non-vol?
What did they start with, a club?
Yeah, they opened a club. You have a singleton there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of what I would view as a minimum overcall. So I would say with your balancing, that might be what we would look, that the kind of hand that we would say is, minimum. So you want to put a high card point on it, yeah, you could balance with as few as 7 or 8 points. I would not be inclined to do it with less, even at favorable vulnerability. Like I said, back to that situation, we're like, I think I smell a rat. I think the opponents might actually be missing something here.
You're balancing after your partner passed, when you say 7 or 8. It's not, you're not the second seed.
Right. So.
Right. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Now I would overcall a spade in direct seat with that hand. In other
Indirect
words,
seat.
this top option
Okay.
here, I would, even with that hand, certainly
Direct
favorable
seat.
vulnerability.
Okay.
I would bid a spade there.
All right.
And then you could do the same thing over here, right? If it came around, if it went 1 club pass, and you had that same hand, I would still balance. So if that works as kind of a guideline, if you ask yourself, okay, would I make a 1-level overcall with this hand? If the answer to that is yes, then I think it's certainly safe to balance. If you are balancing, for balancing in general, but in particular, if your intent is to balance with a double, I think the most important thing, more important than high cards, is really shortness in the opponent's suit. The shorter you are in the opponent's suit, generally the safer it is to double. Now, one thing to keep in mind also is that the shorter you are in the opponent's suit, when they haven't found a fit there, the greater the likelihood you're going to catch partner with length in that suit. So again, you like using this auction on top where they open a club. Now that's full opening hand, right? That is, there's nothing speculative about this double. But if 1 club came around you and you had this hand with 4 spades, 4 hearts, 5 diamonds, and a club point, take out double, right? You could bid a diamond, but I think you would want to keep both. You've got nice major suit holdings in your 4 cards in both majors, so I think you definitely want to keep the majors in the picture, and the best way to keep all 3 unbid suits in the picture is double, right? But one thing to keep in mind when you double, and I'm not saying that this is a reason not to do it, but since you have no clubs at all, it may be that partner has a bunch of them, right? Partner might have a bunch of clubs, and that's part of the reason why they didn't have a call over the opponent's 1 club opening. So understand that there is a possibility that when you're really short in the opponent's suit, that your double could get left in. Now, is it going to get left in at the 1 level? Probably not that often. So if partner did that, hopefully partner's clubs would be really long and fairly good to think that you would have a lot of defense at the 1 level. Now, let's make this hand significantly weaker. Now it's now no longer an opening hand. It's got the same shape. Are you going to double if one club comes around to you in a pass-out seat?
I would.
I think you should. It may look a little scarier to you because this hand isn't quite as good. It doesn't have as much defense as the last hand did. That's another thing, by the way, that I like people to be in the practice of, and this is one of those, I think the best way to describe it. Even if your intent is to declare the hand, you want to do some bidding or you want partner to bid, and your first thought is, let's find a place to play, let's find our best fit, and let's play this hand. I also like you, at least in the back of your mind, to be considering the defensive value of the hand. Because in a competitive auction, there's no guarantee that your side is going to win the contract. And if you end up defending, especially if you end up defending, and this happened to me, unfortunately, a couple times on Tuesday, is that I ended up doubling a couple of contracts from the opponents that made easily. Because my partner had taken really light action, and we didn't have any defense. So that's also part of the reason why I feel like it's and this is another topic, but why I think you some people have a tendency to stretch a 2-club opening and open 2 clubs with hands that shouldn't be open 2 clubs. One of the things I look at if I'm on the fence about whether it's a legitimate 2-club opener is, does the hand have defensive value? Well, if part of your hand is 8 solid spades, ace, king, queen, jack, 8 of spades, but you don't have much outside, that's usually the kind of hand that you're better off opening a more preemptive 4 spades or even 1 spade, rather than 2 clubs, because your hand doesn't have defensive value, right? When you have an 8-card suit, how many of those winners are you cashing if the opponents play the hand in their suit? Rarely more than 1, right? And sometimes not even that. Somebody has a void. So just a good, just kind of an aside, think about defense and, okay, well, this hand may not have a lot of defense. That said, I would still double. I don't know that I would double in direct seat with that hand. So if I held this hand in the direct seat over a club, I probably wouldn't double. It's a little bit light, an aceless 9 count, maybe a bit of a stretch. What's that?
13 if you count the void.
Yeah, but remember, the void is only worth something if you find a fit in one of these
Right.
suits. And if partner is sitting over there with a bunch of clubs, your club shortness is not necessarily an asset. So, but in the balancing seat, I would definitely double with that. So we have high card strength, we have shape, particularly shortness in the opponent's suit. I would add as a third item on our criteria for balancing, no long/strong suit of our own. So we can go back to this hand. And if we want, actually, if it makes you feel a little bit better about balancing, we'll give you another king. So what if one club comes around and you have a hand that looks like this? Well, here you actually have a choice. Hopefully you definitely want to bid with this hand. Hopefully you want to balance. But in this case, we're asking how? Well, in theory you could double, right? because you're short in clubs and you do have support for all unbid suits. So I wouldn't say that a takeout double is wrong. Is it as good as just bidding a spade here, is the question. And that, I think, is debatable. I prefer just bidding a spade.
Yeah.
Now, that's still balancing. It's an overcall instead of a double, right? It's, you are still, because you are in the pass out seat and you are taking some action, you are balancing. You're just not balancing with a double. And what I'm afraid of here is that if I double, if partner doesn't bid a spade, we may miss a good spade fit.
Yeah.
And you may think, well, yeah, but what if partner has 5 hearts, or what if partner has 4 or 5 diamonds? Maybe we have a better fit there. That's true. You might have a better fit there. On the other hand, we think partner is marked with a few cards, right? We think partner probably has some values. But if your partner had 8 or 9 points in a 5-card heart suit, might they not have overcalled a heart? So